I'm Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact focused on personal growth, my Knowledge Workbook series and Creative Healing course can help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about what happens if your ex reaches out and doesn't follow up.
Oh, this happens all too often.
Oh my gosh, it's so frustrating. You have gone months without hearing from this person. In many cases, they reach out to you, you have a few text messages, and they disappear again.
So frustrating.
Oh man, it really is, because you have been waiting for that moment for a long time. So we're going to talk about that today, but we want to get your thoughts on how we set it up like this. Do you guys like the new studio like this with the slightly different vibe to it?
Be honest.
A lot of people said they like the way we've been doing it on the Craig Kenneth Show channel, so we thought we'd try it like this today.
We gotta spice it up sometimes, you know?
So what happens if your ex reaches out, breaks no contact, and then doesn't follow up?
Well, number one, it drains you. This is an emotional roller coaster that you go through each time they reach out and don't follow through, because you have that hope of, oh, this is going to go somewhere. Oh, finally, I can ask them out. They're going to want to go out. But then things just kind of drop off. Either they don't respond or they just leave you one-word messages and kind of string you along. So you're getting to that point where you're thinking, is this breadcrumbing? Well, what do I do? How do I respond? They're not receptive. It can be so confusing. So we're going to talk about being able to set boundaries with your ex. And it can be difficult because you want to feel close to them. You've been waiting for them to reach out for a while, likely. And the problem is they reach out so sporadically that you don't know what to expect. So it keeps you on the hook. And they might not be willing to escalate. They might not be willing to meet up with you. They might not be willing to continue that conversation. So what do you do then? Well,
you don't chase, but your instinct is going to be to chase. You're going to feel this deep yearning desire to just reach out. Just reach out one more time. Just follow up. Don't do it. Don't do it. You don't want to chase them, okay? Many of the videos where we're talking about no contact, we're talking about your ex hasn't reached out in months, and they finally do with an indirect direct. Some of you guys are in a different situation where your ex is kind of breadcrumbing you, and they are messaging you here and there, and it's not going anywhere, and you feel like they're just keeping you holding on to hope when nothing ever goes anywhere, and it can go on week after week, month after month. And you're like, what is this? Like, I don't understand. Like, you can't move on, and yet it doesn't seem like they want anything. It's like, are they thinking I'm going to be a friend? Do they think I'm just going to settle for friendship?
Right, and a lot of times exes will try to sneak their way into friendship by doing this. But we don't want to alarm you too soon. If it's been 2 weeks after the breakup, you're likely not being breadcrumbed, and we have a whole other video on breadcrumbing.
We have several,
yes. But be aware of that. Sometimes I also see jumping the gun too soon, where it's only been maybe a month after the breakup, and maybe they've messaged you like once a week, so it would be like a total of 4 times or something like that. And you're like, I'm not going to be their friend. It's like, okay, you were just together not too long ago. So think about the time frame in this before being able to set boundaries. It's something just I want to make clear. Setting a boundary too soon can be overkill, and it can kind of push your ex away, and that's why I say that. You also don't want to ignore your ex at the same time, too.
Good point, because some people will tell you to ignore your ex. If you ignore your ex, they may not reach out again. They may feel rejected. They may feel like you hate them, and you're taking a risk.
Right. So if you do get to the point where, let's say it's been a year and you're still hearing from them, they're sending you reels here and there.
Oh, that's torture.
continuing the conversation, even if you ask a question, it just kind of dies out. How do we set a boundary to protect our heart in this case?
Yeah.
It takes skill and it takes clarity with your word. A lot of times we will be vague ourselves because we want to leave that door open and we don't want to push our ex away because we're scared. But at the same time, we're continuing this perpetuation of these little messages over time that continue to, chip away at us and exhaust us.
Yeah.
So,
and each of you are going to feel that at a different pace depending upon the relationship and the breakup and how it played out. So some of you may be overwhelmed by this, a few months after the breakup. Some of you may be tolerating this for 6 months, a year. Honestly, if it's me, I'm setting that boundary sooner than later. Okay? I don't want somebody to think that I want to be their friend if I can't be friends with them. I want to set a strong boundary and let them know. That's me personally. That's what I would do.
Yeah. So you have to think about the timing of it because the timing is important. You want to start with either a neutral or a positive. Sometimes when we're setting boundaries, depending on the boundary, but sometimes we can come off very abrasive. Don't talk to me ever again. This is unacceptable. We can start to accuse and point and blame, and then we completely lose our point, right? And so you want to start with a neutral or a positive. Thank you for thinking of me. Could be, I appreciate you sharing this with me. It could be, I hope you're doing well. Something that says, okay, we're on good footing here. This is actually part of Gottman's advice too, with what they call a soft start, which if you're having any kind of conversation, whether it is talking about a conflict or a disagreement, having that soft start can completely change the trajectory of that conversation on whether it ends up being productive or whether it turns into a bickering argument, fight, whatever it could be.
Yep.
So start with either a positive or a neutral. It doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that you sent me this reel that has nothing to do about anything.
Yeah, that's that doesn't make sense, right?
It could be even a neutral. It could just be a, I appreciate you sharing this with me.
And what you might say or consider saying is, thank you for sending this to me. What made you send this to me? Was there something about this that made you send this, right? And you can ask a follow-up question and see what they say. But ultimately, you have to think about what you need in this breakup as well and how you're feeling about it, and consider the dynamic they may be wanting versus what you may be wanting. And you may have to let them know, look, I can't continue talking with you like this. Things have changed between us, and so I can't keep talking to you. I need space. Or you could say something like, if you change your mind, give me a call. We say that often, right? You have to be able to let this person know in a way that you're not being too harsh, that you don't want to be friends.
Right. And at the same time, while being clear. And that's what's important. I know it can be a very fine line between being harsh or sounding either demanding or demeaning to asking for what you need and having that respect and politeness in the conversation, showing that there's still, good positive regard, in that situation. And so you want to give that opportunity for reconnection, as you said. If you change your mind, if you want to have a conversation about this, you let me know.
Yep.
Leaving things open. This is if you're wanting to reconsider things with your ex. So keeping that in mind.
Sure.
Now, there could be that situation where your ex doesn't care. Your ex says, okay, that's totally fine. A week later, ding. Oh, look who it is. It's another reel that has nothing to do with anything that we've ever talked about. So what do you do when your ex isn't respecting your boundary or your request for some space or your request for, taking that kind of communication seriously?
Yeah.
You can gently reiterate, hey, I know I had mentioned this once before. Just want to remind you, I'm still feeling this way.
Yeah.
You can create more distance by creating space. You could take your time to respond. You could take a little bit longer to respond. You can limit what you share, because sometimes you're part of this dynamic too, because you're also sporadically reaching out to them, and then it's just not really going anywhere, and it's been that way, and it's going to continue to be that way. So you're kind of stuck in that rut.
Yeah. And depending upon the situation, you might say something like, oh, it's nice to hear from you. Does this mean you want to get together? And see what they say. Because if they say no, then you can reiterate, look, I appreciate you reaching out to me, but please don't contact me, or please only contact me if you want to get together. Now you're setting the boundary again a little bit firmer.
Right. And in those cases, you might have to be more direct. You might have to escalate depending on how the other person is responding. And you might have to take severe measures if somebody is not respecting your boundaries. You know, you might have to block them in certain cases. You might have to unfriend them, mute them, you know, whatever it might be to really protect yourself.
Or tell them that you're going to block them,
right,
and saying, look, you know, you've reached out to me several times. I asked you to please only do that if you want to get together and see where this goes. And you just keep reaching out. If you keep doing that, I'm going to have to block you because it's really impacting me and my healing from this breakup.
Right. And you might not start with that if this is a week out of your breakup and they've just sent you one thing. So just be mindful of the timing and be mindful of the content here too. We're saying in severe cases, if it's been a year, you're still getting harassed from your ex, but they're not wanting to actually have a conversation or move things forward, then you can get to that level thinking about protecting yourself and your heart. Because we know it does impact you to hear from your ex here and there. For a while, it can impact your openness to other opportunities that are out there. It can keep you hanging on.
Yeah, we don't want you to get breadcrumbed. In many cases, you guys don't hear from your ex for months and they do an indirect, direct approach. But not everybody does that. Sometimes you have exes that continually reach out and breadcrumb you and not pay attention to what you're asking them or saying that you need. And if that gets to a place where it's hurting you, it's keeping you stuck, it keeps reeling you back into that pain of the breakup, then you're going to have to set a stronger boundary because they know what they're doing. It's not like they don't know that it's not impacting you, especially if you've gently set some boundaries with them ahead of time.
Yeah.
You know, they have to know that it hurts and that, you know, you're not just going to be taken advantage of.
Exactly. That kind of behavior on your ex's end, it does impact you, and it does impact people when you just send them sporadic messages without the intention of really creating that bond or rebuilding that bond. So by you setting that boundary, you're showing them this is, you know, what I don't want in a relationship. This behavior from your ex's part impacts you, and it can get to that point where it's being inconsiderate of how it is impacting you. So sometimes you have to stand up for yourself even when it's hard, and I know it's hard to do that with somebody that you love and care about. I know there can be a thrill from seeing a message from them each time. You have that feeling in your heart, oh my gosh, they thought about me. But somebody thinking about you and having the intention to actually reconsider things is a difference there. And there can be people who are very avoidant, you know, who will not be willing to take that next step. And, you know, we talk about not being on hold forever. So we have to think about yourself here. We have to think about your heart and the direction you want to go in the relationships you want to have.
Absolutely. Not easy to navigate, but you also have to protect yourself and not just get taken advantage of, which can happen. And if you want to learn a lot about boundaries, there is a lot in the creative healing course.
There is. Boundaries with your dog, with your cat.
Coach Victoria was going crazy with boundaries. I think it was in like section 5-ish.
Yeah, there's a lot of things on
boundaries. There was a bunch on boundaries.
But it's important to have.
Yeah.
You know, it's important to know what the limits are of your different relationships in your life.
I had to set boundaries about boundaries. I'm like, all right, we've got enough boundaries.
I was like, not enough boundaries. That's my boundary.
That's in the creative healing course. But hopefully this one's been helpful to you. Of course, if you want to get our help personally, you can do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Zoom calls. Coach Victoria is also available for Zoom coaching.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
Just click on her name on the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.